And you talk about tweaking the system. We have, of course, over the last couple of executive terms. I'll put myself into the blame a certain amount here. We've seen a blurring of executive and legislative power, where Parliament has held so much sway over the executive branch, and a lot of people have been calling for increased power of Parliament. What do you think of this blurring of executive and legislative power?
Well, there's two ways of looking at it. It's quite simple, really. Parliament makes laws. The executive operates government under those in accordance with those laws. If Parliament makes a law that reduces the power of the executive, that's fine. Parliament has decided. I would personally increase the power of the executive, not to the extent that it can operate willy-nilly without parliamentary check. But the parliamentary check should not be that everything has to be brought back to a vote to Parliament. The parliamentary check should be a vote of no confidence in the government because they're not carrying out what is just perceived will of the Parliament, and then we call an election. That's the way the British system, the Irish system, and most Western European democracies work. Now, I understand that's not the American system, so it may be difficult for them to understand how to operate it, but I'm quite sure that it's just a learning curve.
So you feel we should model ourselves more on the European style of politics than on the American one, where the executive is heavily restrained by the legislative?
I do, but I can understand why Americans may disagree with me. It's what we're each are used to. But the parliamentary system we have, with all the political parties and the Prime Minister and all that, is leaning towards and the ceremonial president we've already leaned a lot of the way towards the European system. Therefore, I think it's reasonable to operate the rest of the system that way.
Well, of course, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of American people in our community. Do you think we should try to encourage them to embrace the more European side of Parliament, or do you think we should be more accommodating, maybe increase the Americanism of the system?
Personally, I wouldn't increase. I wouldn't go the American route. I don't understand it too well, I have to be honest. Now, I understand that Americans may disagree, but that's what Parliament's for. Get their point across, win the vote in Parliament, and they can have that system if that's what they want. But I really don't mind which way it goes. Personally, I would go the European system. But what categorically has to be done is any changes would have to be done via the rule of law. We can't just decide, right, we don't like the European system, we'll go the American system. They have to put their bill in Parliament, argue it, get it passed, and have a cohesive law that will actually change the system if that's what you want. You know, you have to stay within the confines of the laws we have to change anything. And once that's done, I'd have no argument what system is used. I prefer the Western European system, and I'd always be pushing that.
Now, of course, we've spoken quite a lot about actual ideology, real-world ideology, that you're trying to reinvigorate liberalia with the idea of external ideology. What do you view as the most important priority, however, within nation-states politics? You know, foreign policy or financial policy or defence. What do you see as the most important factor of your campaign this time round?
Within nation-states is becoming almost irrelevant at this stage. Yes, the delegates and the are very important, and the World Assembly now, what used to be the UN, is very important, and we should have proper debates and on what way each delegate votes, and we should argue. I mean, I remember some debates going up there by the delegates and two people voting. Why is that? We should have the UN resolutions are quite often very ideologically driven, either from the left or from the right. We should have good squabbles about that in Parliament. We should maybe the UN regulation or resolutions should be put to Parliament, and rather than just by the delegates themselves. I don't know. I haven't thought it through, but we should be squabbling about them things The invader defenders, I have a view on that. My view is not shared by Parliament, so be it. I will say this in my term: I will put a bill through Parliament to try and rejoin the FRA. If it's not passed, I accept completely the will of Parliament, but I will put a bill forward. Now, even my own party doesn't fully agree with me on that, but this is my personal view, and I will be putting a bill forward on that again. And each term, be it whoever is Prime Minister, I will be putting a bill forward on that. If I win it and we rejoin the FRA, then I would fully expect those who disagree with me to be putting a bill forward the next time to withdraw. So that on the invader defender, I think that's my view on that. There's not much else in the States at this stage.
And of course, there's been a lot of heated debate about a summit with Paradisia. What is your view on such a summit? Would you go ahead with it, or would you try and marginalise contact with other regions, particularly regions that we have a history with?
I'm a great believer in extending foreign affairs. And again, this is a political game, and I try to play it down the line as you would in real life. In the height of the Cold War, political contacts between the Soviet Union and the United States were high. There was embassies in each capital, and contacts were there. Doesn't mean you're friends. Doesn't mean all that. I have no history with Paradisia, so I have no issues with that. But I would open embassies with the devil for the fun. Why not? It's what the game is about. And then have your arguments through embassies, and close embassies and when you have disputes, and reopen them again when you make friends again. But it's trying to bring the real life experience of politics and internationalism to the game. And anyone who's ever came when I was Prime Minister, anyone, or Foreign Minister, anyone who ever requested an embassy, no matter who they were, would have got one. Why not?
Well, thank you for your time. I'd like to ask just one final question before we finish. You talk about starting embassies with the devil. So you believe very much in a more open style of politics, more engaging style of politics, where people are included, including foreign regions. How far would you?
Could you just repeat that question there? The sound went a bit funny there.
Certainly. What I'm saying is, you spoke about you'd start an embassy with the devil. So you believe in a more inclusive version of type of politics, very open, where more people are involved. So
yes, I would, because I'll tell you, look around the forum. How many people active on the forum were ex-ambassadors from other regions? It's a great recruitment tool. It's as simple as that. The more people, more regions you have embassies with, the more regions you contact with, the more people come back to your forum and activity. It's activity is what it's all about. We're a community. There's no point in talking, 3 or 4 people talking together. You need more and more people, get more diverse views. I mean, an example would be creationism. I have a view on creationism, and I think it's silly nonsense. But by God, it's very difficult to beat Delta in an argument with it. And where would you get that if we were all the one view and only 3 or 4 of us here? So the more people we drag in, more regions and organisations in nation states, we have embassies with, active embassies with. And I'm to blame as well as that. I haven't been as active as an ambassador as I was. But we need to get that up and running again as well.
Well, thank you for your time. I'd just like to finish on the key question. What do you think is your biggest achievement within Liberalia to date?
Stability. Simple as that. I create stable government, and I think I energise the region a little bit anyway as well.
Thank you very much for your time, Palestine 32. This was our the SDPL candidate, and I'm Trondheim, and I'd like to say good night for now. So long.